We're waiting to be let into Tankfest.
Yeah.
The herd is all sort of pushed up against the gate, the fences.
Everyone's favourite service.
So this is a SAS? SAS Raven Sheep, so yeah, 1942-43. So this is how it would have been kitted out, not like the Rogue Heroes. It would be kitted out for 7 days. So we've got 16 jerry cans on here, fuel and water.
You can see this is like a tractor. They just put the engine at the back rather than the front.
There's a Royal Enfield looking beautiful. This is the Military Vehicle Trust exhibition. British Challenger 2 with a little sense of humour. That's a Grant.
Well, this is a Matilda 2, which we had in the Australian service in the Pacific campaign during World War II, and there's a Matilda 1 over there. So you can see the difference in weight and armour, and you know how quickly tank technology was moving forward. We're witnessing the birth of the armoured personnel carrier with the half-track. So this is the German half-track.
This is the largest gun ever mounted on a tank. It's a Spud.
Just to give you an idea about how whimsical and unpractical the Kraken is, there was a couple of these up for auction not that long ago in Melbourne, and she wanted to buy a Chieftain tank, and I'm like, where are we going to put it? What are we going to do with it? You know, I think this is the first time she's ever seen one in real life, and now she's a bit shocked about the size of it.
We could make it work. These are still being used in the unfortunate war in Ukraine today.
So this is not a petrol anymore, this is a diesel engine. So that's got a Detroit diesel in it, 2-stroke, 12-litre turbo.
Another one currently in use. Charlie says these are the non-glamorous units, but I think if you're up shit creek without a paddle, you'd be very grateful to see these guys coming. So I've got newfound respect for the recovery vehicles. Apparently in the protocols they use currently, they'll send the bridge first, then the recovery vehicle, and then the tanks. So these guys are actually in the front line before the big boys turn up.
We met a guy on the cruise whose uncle was in one of these in France and was killed when it took on tanks, because by the time you know, the invasion, D-Day had taken place, these were seriously outgunned by the Germans, and these should have just been used as scouts. They shouldn't go on tank battles, and it was knocked out very quickly. We're going to where that happened later on when we were in Normandy, just to have a look, because you know, it's a personal story. It was really touching. What were you saying about the bogan?
The bogan in me is a little bit excited. You know? I like all the noise and the music and all the cool things. I'm hoping for like explosions.
Yeah. You can just hear the tank starting up now.
They're just going to be right there. We've got a semi-front row seat.
Rifle, the S&E, carried by the British infantry. Now, we've got another armoured vehicle. Now, I said that one was a replica. This is the real deal. It makes me immensely happy to see this little Renault FT tank coming towards us, more than 100 years old. About 3,000 of these built by Renault, by the French company.
What we have here is the M5A1. It wasn't the first American tank to see combat. The first American tank was the M3.
Hey Charlie, apparently there's hundreds of hours of involvement in tank videos on their channel.
And we've made our way to the Living History Park.
Now, the Stuart was on the gun. This tank isn't on the gun. This is the replacement for the Stuart. This is the M24 Chaffee, specifically designed as a light tank and specifically designed to meet some of the criticisms that the Stuarts had been subject to, in particular the firepower. Now that gun on there is a 75mm. I'm sure David will explain basically the hole, the size of the hole that you look down when you look down the barrel. Not designed for a tank. It was originally designed for an aeroplane, the B-25 Mitchell bomber. The Americans were very concerned about the size of the Japanese fleet in the Pacific, so they wanted some kind of ship-busting, long-range aircraft. They were going to fit these 75mm underneath a Mitchell bomber. Wasn't a great success as an idea. A number were made, but it meant there was a load of surplus guns available they could put into their new light tank. It's got the same twin Cadillacs that we see in the Stuarts. It's lightly armoured. The spec said they wanted it round about 20 to 25 tons. So that meant you had to limit the thickness of the armour, and that was the main criticism of the crew, that this tank, without the firepower, it's still relatively underprotected, particularly in mines. Quite possibly, Sherman Mark, the most important Allied tank of World War II. By 1944, things had changed. We've got Mark IV Specials with a long 75mm gun. We've got Panthers, we've got Tigers. Basically, we need a bigger gun. And here's a bigger gun. This is the M4A2. M4A2 bracket 7.6 closed bracket. This, of course, is Fury. You'll recognise it from the film. The interesting thing is that the tanks tend to be, the various types of German tank tend to be designated by the engines in the back of them. And that depended on who made them. Right? So, this particular one has twin diesels. Oh, he's pointing his machine gun at me for some reason. This particular one has twin diesels, right? Not as was portrayed in the film. It's not a petrol engine, it's got a diesel engine.
We've ridden up to Salubrious Bovington. There's a Chinese takeaway and the barracks and Babcock and such around here, so it's pretty quiet. After our earlier excursion, we found out that the Bovington community store exists, which is has a bit more of a range, you can say, than the other place we went to before. Charlie's just packing the snacks on the bike and we're heading back.
Fly over now. That is going to rattle the Germans. They will have had one eye on the sky. They will have one on the sky throughout this engagement, because the one thing the Allies have got is total air superiority. Now, they're lucky today. They are very lucky. That is a Type 19 Spitfire. It's a photo reconnaissance aircraft. He's coming round again for another look. Here he comes. Hear that Griffin roar, ladies and gentlemen. That would still be enough. I said, they don't know it's a photo reconnaissance aircraft. I do. That will be reporting back so that we know what kind of position all along the line. They'll be checking on the degree of resistance at each point on the advance. And he's coming in again for another overflight. The fact that he hasn't engaged has emboldened the Germans a little bit. Had he been, should we say, a fighting Spitfire, the heaviest weapons he would have had would be a couple of 20mm cannons. Give a wave, everybody, come on, he can see you. There he goes. Come back with some Typhoons. That's a good chap. He can't do anything. You could have shot up the light armoured car had he had 20mm cannon, which he hasn't got. He's completely unarmed. He could not have affected this enormous King Tiger. But it's fear of Allied air superiority which haunts the Germans. Hence, you'll notice the camouflage on the lighter armoured vehicles. Another giveaway, a couple of our students here are using the MP40 sub-machine pistol. That was not as widely available to standard Wehrmacht soldier at this stage in the war as it would have been. I can see at least one Russian pistol in there as well, which has been looted. Front. 29. They've got far more automatic fire out here. They've got Thompsons, they've got a BAR, Browning automatic rifle. The idea is to lay down as much fire as you can. Now you'll notice part of the 29 is broken off. The Americans have this maxim: find them, fix them, flank them, finish them. Well, they found them, or are they blundered into them? Now the task is to fix them until such a time as they can flank the German position, and then, with a bit of luck, they can finish them. But I suspect they're going to need some heavy support in order to deal with that German armour there. Now the Panzer Grenadiers, they realise being flanked, they're withdrawing again. These guys are not panicking, this is not a rout. They know they're ground, they know there's a village down here which they can occupy. Buildings are very difficult to clear. Has got more of a chance against the armour of the King Tiger as long as he picks his spot. This is very finely in a balance, ladies and gentlemen. A lot is going to depend on whether or not the Americans can gain dominance on this battlefield. It's still an even balance. Wow, my goodness, King Tiger's being hit from every direction. It may not have been brewed, 2.1 has been brewed. It may not have been brewed, but that crew is going to be that were injured by that incoming fire. Pretty much the now they're fighting on the village. This is it. They're going in grenades, submachine guns, and there we are, ladies and gentlemen. The Panther Grenadiers at large have decided that this is an impossible battle to win. There's a white flag being shown there.
There's like hot sauce. There's chocolate buttons with tanks on them. There's like Tiger 131 cookie cutters. Lollies.
So you've got a left crew in there, and it makes that tank nice and low if you look at it compared to the other tanks. Two guys in the turret, driving down the front, lovely angle front armour, diesel engine in the back, very effective bit of kit, and again they're building them in large numbers, about 30,000 T-72s.
New threats, new enemies, and new strategies to deal with them. Intended for use in what's known as a peer conflict, where both sides in the conflict are fairly evenly matched. In other words, we were expecting to be fighting the Soviet Union and its allies in the Warsaw Pact. With the collapse of that, the threats became more diverse, but less sizable in one extent. Russian imperialism or Soviet imperialism which we've been facing during the Cold War, we now faced other threats. Threats like, for instance, radical Islam, radical nationalism in places like the Balkans. Threats that were probably not best answered with large battle tanks. We needed vehicles that were smaller, more nimble, if you will, and this one's particularly nimble. Here we have the Scimitar. Of strategic theories to deal with potential enemies, everything from massive retaliation to flexible response, what have you. The thinking in the more modern world has been for a rapid but limited response. It's far, far better to get your forces on the ground quickly and with a capacity to dominate that ground, but without necessarily being great big hulking battle tanks. Imagine moving one of the main battle tanks that you see today and then multiply that to brigade level. It's a huge undertaking. Some of these vehicles are air portable. It makes a huge, huge difference. You'll notice, in fact, two of them are painted sand colour. It was interesting, a colleague of mine, much younger than I am, when he first saw his first green painted armoured vehicle driving through Bovington, he said, "Oh, I haven't seen that before. They've always been sand coloured up to now." So one of the threats that we faced, of course, was threat from people like the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, this sort of thing. Now, the first vehicle we're going to look at in a little bit more detail is the CBRT Scimitar. It's not a light tank. I'm not allowed to call it a light tank. It's a combat vehicle reconnaissance, open bracket, tracked, closed bracket. Basically, it's a light tank. And the fact is, the British had a fairly unhappy experience of light tanks in World War II. So that's a phrase we put to one side, and we've come up with this idea, this is the CBRT.
It's brilliant because you get loads of new bits of kit and they just tell you to break them.
Absolutely. We'll use the term check that they've been ruggedised correctly. Really, we're checking that they're squaddy proof.
Brilliant. And, you know, without giving too much away, because we can't ask you things we're not allowed to, but do you manage to break much, or actually the techie's pretty good at giving you stuff that's on the money?
Rather unfortunately, the people that make the tech are better at making tech than we are at breaking them. Whether that's we're bad at breaking or they're just better at making, I'm not sure, but 80% of the time, the kit is suitable for purpose.
And what is wonderful, I know that you never have to ask or force volunteers to take part in the events at Tankfest, and you can see all weekend they've had huge smiles on their faces. And this weekend, of course, with Armed Forces Weekend, it's probably very special for you guys to be here and to see all of the public. And of course, on every day this week, with a lot of locals as well from this area.
Absolutely, and the nicest thing is, whilst we are subject matter experts in a number of things, out in the crowd there are guaranteed to be people that know more than me, so if I'm ever stuck for an answer, I can probably look to one of the old and bold and they're going to help me out. So thank you all for turning up, and thanks for helping me where needed.
And of course as well, I know you were saying before that lots and lots of people come to Tankfest from across the world, and many of them have been down to the tank park where you've been and talked to you about the equipment you've got. That must also be really rewarding.
Absolutely. I had a chap who came over for 3 days to celebrate his birthday on the Friday, and then 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, here from Austria. I've never actually spoken to a chap from Austria, so that was a first for me. I think we've had Singapore, we've had Australia. It really proves that tanks in general still hold fascination and are still very definitely relevant.
Time for me to shut up, as they say, and leave you to get this display underway. The final big active display in the main arena for Tankfest 2025, which is presented by the World of Tanks. And with you will be David Woolley, one of our commentators.
Corporal Wright, last day, all ready to go?
Ready, willing and waiting. Let's get this done.
Okay, we're going to see some vehicles coming on now. We'll get over the other side out of the way, because these are going to come around at a bit of speed. As we warn you throughout the day, they pump out a bit of smoke, everything else. You're used to that by now, but they're loud and they're big and they're very aggressive. So we can show these ones off. ATU, again, we were just saying, these are the guys that are based here at Bovington to trial these vehicles. And the really nice thing at the moment from your point of view is you've got some really interesting stuff going on trial at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. First thing, however, we can't trial anything unless we've got a way of collecting it if it's broken. And the vehicle you see in front of you here is the prime example of that, okay? This is part of the MAN SV or support vehicle range. The SX chassis, to be precise, you can tell that because it's got 8 wheels. And also, the big crane is the giveaway that this is the SVR or support vehicle recovery. That crane can be used to pick up anything up to about 15.5 tons, and when used in conjunction with the winch at the back, it is able to lift and pull most vehicles out of a ditch if required.
Now, as a vehicle, this is, you said yesterday, like, oh, it's not armoured, is it? But it is up the front, and you can add armour if it's going in a threatening environment.
Absolutely, so scalable, you can add bar armour to it, there is top cover as well, so you can have a machine gunner stoked out the top there. Traditionally, it's not going to be at the front line, but if a vehicle close to the front line needs recovering, that's what we're going to send there. Crewed by the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, REME for short. Generally, you're going to have a crew of 2 recovery mechanics. Yeah, recovery mechanics, or as we like to call them, recce mechs. Don't get confused between recce being reconnaissance and recovery. These guys are exceptional at getting you out of a ditch, but not so good at map reading.
So again, you know, it really does look like the Tonka toy, a big bit of kit that way. Essential because basically we don't want that asset to go to waste, do we? We want to recover it, to reuse it, don't let the bad guys get it, etc. So recovery vitally important in this day and age.
Absolutely. Recovery is not its only tool, as it were. This is the medium-sized Swiss Army knife. That crane can be used for lifting things in a maintenance environment. When you use two SVRs together, it's perfectly capable of lifting the turret off of a Challenger 2. This is the big one, okay? This is Resurrection from ATU, our upgraded craft, Challenger armoured repair and recovery vehicle. With the addition of ERA on the side, it needs to be heavier, it needs to be protected, because this is what we're going to send in to pick up a Challenger if it's got stricken. Manned today by Staff Sergeant Kit and Corporal Wood in the driver's seat. Their family's here, so I'm under pain of death to mention that. This is what's used to pull things. The crane that you see on there is purely there to lift back decks off of Challenger 2s and take the pack out. It is not there as a recovery asset. The recovery element of this is the big winch that you see at the front, and then at the rear you'll notice large metal bars designed to form an A-frame to tow the tanks out of the shop.
Again, another vehicle that we keep talking about recovery and why that's important, but also the idea of shell scrapes, tank hides, anything like that, being able to create a barrier for your assets and keeping those assets going. You know, we're not giving away things too much, but obviously in this day and age, we put a lot of money into an item, however lethal that is, but we can't afford to lose it too quickly. So having something like the craft and getting back into service, really, really important role in the military.
Agreed entirely. And touching on once again valuable assets. We've talked about utility knives. This is not. This is a single purpose vehicle and it needs protecting at all points. This is the Titan. Okay, based on the Challenger 2, it's got a bridge on there. This asset is vital in enabling us to carry out manoeuvre warfare. If there is a river somewhere, we cannot get a battle group over it. This vehicle is what allows us to do it. Mounted today with a Mark 10 bridge, which got an impressive length of 24.5 metre span. At all times, this is going to be heavily protected. Crewed by the engineers, this is part of a range of what we call the T2 series, and this is Challenger chassis-based support vehicles. You may have seen the Trojan last year, very aggressive looking vehicle with the mine plough on the front, fascines on the rear. They've spotted their suitable crossing place here. That could have been ID'd by one of the armoured cavalry-like regiments, but often engineers have their own integral engineer recce. Nowadays, more than likely to be going on to one of the Ajax variants. Back in the day, it was CBRT. You can often tell these people because they'll walk around with very wet legs because they're perpetually walking into rivers to check it's suitable for crossing.
And of course, it sounds again so old, but it's traditionally a river line is a great defence position. If you want to get at the enemy the other side, they're going to be blowing up the bridges. You've still got to get across to advance or retreat, whatever the situation is. So again, this wouldn't be on its own that way. You know, you're going to be using the rest of your force in that sort of, you know, covering manner.
Absolutely. So in this situation, we've found the correct crossing. Before that has even contemplated moving forward, we're going to have tanks, a troop of tanks in Overwatch. They're going to be looking over the object, so they're not looking at the immediate ground, they're looking in depth, 1-2 kilometres away, ready to react to any sign of enemy movement. As HR is being given, this is going to advance, but it's not going to advance by itself. This is going to be sandbagged by a troop of tanks, i.e. you're going to have 4 tanks crawling forward. The tank's job there is to attract enemy fire. We cannot lose this asset. It will deny the momentum and it will in effect stop us dead in our tracks. You'll see it smoking there, yeah? No smoke grenades or anything like that. Similar to what you'll see shortly on the other vehicles, all we're doing is spilling diesel onto turbos to create that smoke. Very effective, but as remember with all smoke, it stops the enemy seeing, but it can also stop you seeing. So you've got to be diligent with your use of it.
And And so the vehicle lays the bridge. Will it always cross it or back off, or what happens afterwards?
I could think of very few examples where the Titan would go over that. What's going to happen as soon as that bridge is laid, the Titan's going to recover back to its engineer hide. The tanks may go back with it, or if we're confident it's support, the tanks are going to remain there. As soon as it's laid, we're going to have the armoured infantry. They're going to be released. Currently in Warriors, vehicle may differ soon. The armoured infantry are going to force their way across this bridge. They're going to create a bridgehead force. So we're talking 500 metres, 1,000 metres on the other side of the river. They're going to dismount, they're going to create a jab screen. So if enemy armour tries to counter-punch, we've got the ability to fight back.
One of the vehicles that might be going across.
Absolutely, so we've done our support vehicles, now we're moving on to the fighting fleet. What you see in front of you is the Jackal. More specifically, the Jackal 2, easily identifiable because it's got greater armour on the underneath to divert IED blasts, and the gun ring is set slightly further back. Designed as a reconnaissance vehicle, this is going to operate in the deep battle space, okay? This is going to push well forward. It's able to operate independently as a troop for about 10 days. Our new strike and reconnaissance vehicle. Two different things there, strike and reconnaissance. This Ajax series of vehicles is the spiritual successor to CVRT. From the previous shows we've learned CVRT, lightly armoured, using its speed to get around, designed for recce by stealth. 40mm cannon, really effective. 150mm penetration at 1,000 metres. Not only can we sneak around, spot the enemy using our advanced sensors, including sonic sensors, image intensifiers, what we're able to do now is really reach out and touch them. If it's a peer-on-peer threat, a similar enemy vehicle, we can actually have a kinetic effect on it, as opposed to simply recording it back. Now Ajax has is also a leader, the command area. Current colonel, a tank
You know, we can hear something in the distance. This thing can tell you what it is.
Absolutely. There's plenty of ears around here that don't need acoustic sensors to tell what's coming in the distance. Here we have the infamous Megatron, okay? Challenger 2, a bit of OES, a bit of Tez mixed in there, in a fairly unique armour package. Dressed today in Barracuda, which is a multi-spectrum camouflage, not only there to visually disrupt, but also to drop down the thermal signature. Third generation main battle tank used by the British Army. Third generation, it's got composite armour, it's got a fully stabilised and electronics turret with an electronic fire control system. Before it moves off, once again I need to point out today, commanded by Major Williamson. He's my boss, his family's here, hopefully they've heard that. What we've actually got today is a Warrior 514. That is the mechanised artillery observation vehicle, used by the Royal Artillery to direct and keep an eye on deep striking fires which have become so prevalent in the way we warfight now. How can you tell it's a 514? If you look closely around the turret, you'll see 4 individual antenna pods. The 514 needs that number because they're going to be on multiple radios. They'll be on battle group, they'll be on fire control, they'll be on artillery, they'll be on battery means. It's a very busy time in there. And because it's so busy, the 30mm Kraken cannon that you see on the front is actually a dummy gun. They don't have the space in there for it. Yes, it's got a protective chain gun, but we put the dummy gun on there so it's harder to identify as a high value target.
They have all the restored tanks, and then they've got the tank museum, but then they also have this restoration area. And I don't think they're going to run out of restoration anytime soon. There must be a couple of hundred armoured vehicles in here, parked cheek and jowl, like there's no space. I mean, they're awfully big, but I mean, there is no space. Some of them don't look like they need that much restoration, mind you. And some of them look like they need a lot. There's quite an amount for 50 cal over there. You know, there's a lot. Here's a Jugger Panther. You know, World War II Jagger Panther. Smaller than I thought it was going to be. This was like a T55, yeah, cutaway. See the thickness of the armour? It's like,
I know what's coming.
and there's a BM1, I think. It's heaps. Tanks as far as the eye can see, or armoured personnel. BTR 60. Well, that KV-1 heavy tank. See how they can fight from inside, infantry fighting vehicles? All got their own little periscopes. Armoured cars from like 1905. And there's two of them. Exactly the same as sister cars, but this one's been done up a bit more. It's got Rolls-Royce engine. Well, it's a Rolls-Royce, so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we want to get that. I guess that fully first on. Yeah, we get a special one every couple of years, maybe 10 or 12 of them, doing a bit of beats. There's a real oddball size.
Quite roomy inside.
So this is the most adorable tank here. Charles is up to mischief.
Probably shouldn't be opening it
You're
up.
going to get in trouble.
I probably shouldn't be opening it up.
Probably not.
It's a World War I tank. It's really cool. It's the first, what they were saying was the first type of sort of modern tank where they had rather than the British tanks and the tanks before it, you know, the turret turned. But it's very light tank.
Charlie!
Very light tank. There's so many tanks. I mean, this is like the third hall I've been in. It's just full of tanks. I mean, here's the tank museum. But I think I'm tanked out. I've seen all the different German Panzers, the Jagger Panther, all of them. Like, it's fantastic. If you're at all interested, you should come here. Every type of tank, amphibious tanks, you know, half tracks, everything. World War I tanks, you can go inside them. So, all good things must come to an end, and we spent 2 days at Bovington. At the first day, we were at Tankfest, which was amazing. We got to see, you know, all the tanks running, mock battles, you know, quite a lot of installations of, you know, like the SAS and light vehicles, and it was really great. We saw Tiger 2, we saw Tiger 1, we saw, you know, T-34, yeah, but lots and lots of tanks. Like, just trust me, there was lots of Centurions. Basically, the only thing we didn't really see was, you know, the Abrams tank, but we saw Challenger 2, you know, and we saw, you know, the latest German tanks. So, and we also saw a display put on by current British servicemen serving in the tank regiment. So that was really busy. Like yesterday, this place was pumping, like, you know, pumping. And, you know, there were thousands of people. I think they said there was 8,000 people on site. So, you know, there was food vans and all that, but the lines were like stretching out the back door. The next day, we've come back to go to the Tank Museum, which we didn't go to yesterday. So yesterday we just did all the temporary displays, and we also did the restoration area, which is closed normally. So normally you can't get into the restoration area where there's thousands of tanks, right? Or probably 1,000 tanks and bits and pieces and everything like that. You're allowed to wander around it yesterday. It's in a big shed, and there's also a lot of tanks outside. So we did all that yesterday, and we didn't even try and get into the Tank Museum because it just looked like mayhem. So we've come back the next day, and at 10 o'clock the next day, the Tank Museum's open. We spent a few hours in there, and it's well worth the time. There's hardly anybody here today, so it's really good. There's a restaurant here and a cafe, and there's even more tanks here. There's a Tiger 2, there's Tiger 1, there's Panzer 4. Well, there's every variant. There's Panthers. There's all the British tanks and the American tanks of World War II, the post-war. There's also a lot of World War I tanks where you can actually get inside the tank. You know, they're all British tanks, so there's no German World War I tanks here other than one mock-up, which we saw yesterday on the field in a bit of a shootout. And that was made for beneath Hill 60, you know, the movie about the big explosion during World War I. But, you know, like, it's hard to film in there because there's just too many tanks, too many things, and the more you walk around, the more you see. And there's also a special display about the war in Ukraine, which, you know, there's also Russian tanks, you know, the T-55s, the Chinese variants, the 59, there's also the 72, and yeah, so it's like really worth going and having a look at this. The Chad 2. There's also, you know, the mock-ups from the games. The Tortoise is in there, and every variant of Challenger and Churchill tanks are in there. So look, we haven't done a lot of filming in there because really this is open all the time. You can come and see it whenever you do, and I just think you should. There's tanks that are completely cut in half so you can see, you know, how it all works inside. And there's also a gaming area if the kids are going to get bored to play World of Tanks, which I didn't do, but like, it is there. And yeah, it was interesting, very interesting. Not as interesting as a Maritime Museum, but interesting. And there's a lot of tanks, even in the roads around here. Bovington's where they have their armoured regiments. There's tanks sort of scattered all along the roads as well, but they're in not great condition. So that's it, and now we're off to catch a train to Southampton.